Good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's afternoon. It's afternoon for us where we're recording this. This is a special edition of the Next Level podcast here on InsideCarolina.com. No, I'm not Tommy Ashley, and I'm sorry for those of you watching that you're looking at me instead of his beautiful face, but I hope that Greg Barnes and our guest today will help get you over that hump. As we're talking with North Carolina head man Mack Brown, of course, we are brought to you by Congruity and Johnny T-Shirt. Coach Brown, thanks for making time for us today on the Next Level. I got to ask, before we get into any football stuff or anything like that, has Mack Brown had time for Mack Brown at all this summer?
Joey, we have. I've enjoyed the 6 grandkids and our children, and we went to the mountains of North Carolina for about a week. And in fact, Sally and I were so tired after we got through, we were ready to come back to work, get some rest. But it's wonderful. Last year, I came right back and spent every day in the offseason program, and it didn't seem to help. So I took a little bit more time this year and took about 10 days instead of a week. But really excited about getting back to work. The guys have worked so hard. I guess every year now is so different, more different than before because of transfer portal, and you've got new members of your team and even new guys coming in summer. So every year is different. And people can sit here and say, I think we're going to be good. Well, nobody knows. You got to play good and be good. And we've got some things we've done really well and some things we need to fix. And that's fun.
Coach, do you have any of the same feelings that you did when you first started as a head coach coming back for fall camp? Is some of that stuff still the same even after, as many years, as many wins as you've had?
Yeah, Joey, I think it's more fun for me now. In fact, I know it is than it was then because I was so uptight and I was so anxious and really didn't know what I was doing all the time. And now you've done this enough. You love taking things that haven't been done right and fix them. And that's what I love to do. I love to fix things. And we're so close. And we got to figure out how to get over the next step and get where we all want to be. We want to be relevant, and we are. We wanted to get Carolina football where people were interested again, and they are. We've got the expectations really high again, and that's good. It means then you've got to live up to them. But I love that. And as you become my age, Sally's age, we're really in this for the kids. And you have a purpose. And every time I get mad at NCAA or I get mad at the portal or NIL or something, I go down to eat lunch with the players or I go out to practice and I'm saying, this is why you do this. These kids haven't changed. They still want to win. They still work hard. They're still growing in their lives. And how many people have a chance to change somebody's lives every day? And that's what I've got. And it's an unbelievable pleasure to be in this position. It's a lot of pressure because you've got to be careful what you say. You got to be careful what you do. We met last night with the leadership committee for about an hour and a half and just asked them, what do you like that we're doing? What do you think we should change? What about the punishments that we have? How would you do those differently? Because we all talk about player-led teams. That's what you got to have. And when you get your players coaching each other and your players depending on each other and holding each other more accountable, then you've got a chance to win championships instead of just be good.
Coach, one of the things that you guys have done really, really well is the APR side of things. Everybody seems to forget that these are students. And something that you guys did this past year with the APR rating, it was the highest in the ACC. It was a 4-year program record. And then you guys also tied with Northwestern for third in all the Power 5. What do you feel like has been the recipe there to get those guys to where academically they're shining just as much as you want them to shine on the field?
Yeah, Joey, nobody, after a loss, nobody ever says, hey, great APR. I mean, I got that. That just doesn't happen in our world, but it's really the reason they come. They come to grow. They come to get better, but they've got to have a degree so they can take another step in their lives because football's taken away at some point. And I'm really, really proud of these guys. Number one, we've recruited the right people. We've got the nicest group of young people I've ever been around in my 36 years on this football team. And they're smart because this is a really hard school. And they're doing the best that we have ever done in football. And that's pretty powerful. The third best in the country. So I'm really, really proud of them. And I'm proud of our academic staff. I'm proud of our coaches along with the kids. But this year, Joey, we brought in a recruiting class the 24 class that averaged a 3.47 core GPA. So we're looking at guys above a 3.0. We're looking at guys that fit this place. We're looking at guys that aren't just going to take money, a few extra bucks to go to a school, because those same guys, if they play really well the first or second year, people are going to be recruiting them off your campus again. So we want guys with substance that want to be here, and families that want their guys to be here. And really an extension of their NIL will be getting a North Carolina degree and using that when they get through.
Mack, speaking of NIL, several years ago when this was announced, I don't know about you, but I know I was kind of scratching my head trying to figure this out of, okay, this is going to be good for the kids, but how do we make this work? And so there's been a lot of progress made. And of course, North Carolina is going to officially announce on August 1st, Oldwell Management, which is bringing in all the NIL operations under one umbrella. And I know you've played a role in that. What, from your perspective, what's the benefit for streamlining the NIL process, and how do you see that helping your football program?
Well, Greg, number one, 3 or 4 years ago, Bubba Cunningham, our athletics director, talked to the team about the future and what was going to happen. And I remember sitting there and thinking, there is no way we're going to lose amateurism. That'll never happen. You can't do that. So they're talking it. They just can't do it. And here we are. And the other thing that we did, we made some really good decisions to help kids, to help young people have more money in their pockets. And there's so many wonderful things about NIL, but we didn't have guidelines. So we didn't think about the consequences, and especially of the transfer portal and NIL at the same time, and tampering. So over 3 years, we've all been trying to navigate this thing. We've had a great group of people that got Heels for Life together and gave us a chance and started it. And you start talking about guys like Dwight Stone and Tom Mann and Bill Goodwin and so many other people that have really worked hard. Even with Inside Carolina folks really stepped up and helped us. So we've had people trying. The thing that's been difficult, I think, is the 28 sports, and each of those 28 sports had their own collective, and they're calling Greg Barnes 28 times, and we call it donor fatigue. You get tired of having calls saying, can you give me 100,000? Can you give me 100,000? Can you give me 50? Well, I just need 10, but I need it this afternoon. And every call is one. They do need the money. We all need the money. I saw a national coach the other day. They said, why are you recruiting better? He said, we're paying them more. And that sounds crazy, but it's really true. So instead of 28 different calls, Greg, everybody is finally getting aligned. We haven't been aligned. We've been all over the place. And everybody's getting aligned now. And the oh well simply means that we're all going to give to the same collective. And you can designate where the money goes. They'll get into all that when they announce it. But it is a game changer for us. They're working with the Rams Club because there was some conflict about, should I give to the Rams Club? Do I get benefits? What does it mean to give to a collective? What do I get out of it? What do I get back? What about the tax ramifications? And so we've been kind of all over the place. The oh well will get us where Rams Club, Chancellor, Board of Trustees, Athletics Director, everybody is on the same page and working in the same direction. And this is the first time I really feel like that we're going to be in the game and we're getting to move forward and be on equal footing with everybody else. So I'm excited about the future.
Another part of that is back in April, the NCAA finally made the decision, which I believe was the correct decision, in allowing universities to take more of a role in NIL to assist their student athletes. From your perspective, and especially kind of on the recruiting trail, and I guess in the whatever you call the portal area now, how has that component of actually the university being able to play a role in these processes, how has that been beneficial?
Greg, anytime you start getting outside of the control of your university, you lose some control, obviously, but it's just not the same because you're really not sure who's involved. And we need to know who's involved in these young people's lives at all time. And we need to know who's talking to them. And with the collectives, they all have agents now. It is more different in my last 3 years than it was my first 47. There's been that many changes the last 3 years. You can sit around and gripe about them, or you can figure them out and make them work for you. COVID was the same. We all sat there at COVID and griped about COVID. Nobody liked COVID. It wasn't good for any of us, but we can either say, this is crazy, it doesn't work, or you can fix it. And what you have to do is figure out the best way to navigate NIL, the best way to navigate COVID as we were doing it, and work for it. So what we've done as a staff has gone back and said, NIL has really helped Tylee Craft because it's helped him navigate some of those waters outside of the money that we can pay through the NCAA to help he and his mom with the cancer and treatments and travel and her being laid off as a police officer. These kids have really gotten involved with Table to help feed kids that are in underprivileged kids in Orange County. They've really gotten involved in Habitat for Humanities. So it lets them meet new people, but it also gives them a sense of giving back. One of our top players took some NIL money, and I didn't even know it, anonymously gave it to UNC Children's Hospital. Kamen Rucker went back to his middle school, and he bought a backpack for all the middle school students and taught them about hygiene, because he said, I didn't understand how to stay clean and smell good and do all those things. A lot of the players said Gray's mom couldn't see him play if it was far away. So last year, for the first time, she was able to go see some away games that she couldn't drive to. So when you think about NIL, we hear about the Lamborghinis and we hear about the Rolls Royce, and that's not really happening. There's some of that maybe. But the 99% of the players are players who are taking a small amount of money and trying to have more money to do things for their parents, for them, than we had when we were in school. When I was in school, you got $15 a month, and that was called laundry money. And I thought it was great. If you're going to have a date, you had to get that, wait till your $15 came out so you could take her to the movie. But this isn't the bad narrative that a lot of people have given it nationally. So I went on a Nike trip a few months ago, and 30 of us as head coaches went to Nike's, kind of a business fun trip, and we all share ideas when we're there. Nike executives said the first day that we were there, college football's never been in better shape than it is right now. And I said, help me with that. And he said, there's more viewers than ever before. The stadiums are full. Players have never been paid. They're being paid legally now. And that's never happened before. We've got a playoff like everybody else in sports has got. He said, do we have some things we need to clean up and some things we got to fix? Yeah. And that's where the One Well and the collectives and the universities come in. I think we're headed toward NFL because we don't have a plan. We don't have guidelines. They do. And for the first time, I think in my career, the NFL's got a better plan than we do. So I think we're going to bring some money back in-house. We're going to hear from this lawsuit pretty soon. And then there will be decisions on how much money each university will have, how much do they give back to the NCAA, how much can they share with the revenue sharing with the players? Is Title IX involved in that revenue sharing? There are a lot of decisions that still have to be made. But if and when that happens, then we have to go back to having something like a salary cap. So the Pat Suddacies become more involved because how much are you going to pay the left tackle? How much are you going to pay a quarterback? How much does that great cornerback makes? And then you have buckets. And in those buckets, this bucket's going to pay for a left guard. This bucket's going to pay for a tight end. And then we have to decide what is the value of each one of those players to our team, just like the NFL. And then you start looking at contracts. And now they're talking about roster management with numbers. So if you're going to spend that much more money, it puts more pressure on athletics departments. So then do we cut rosters? And do you go to 100 or 105 or 106 on a team instead of 120 that we have now? And if you do, they're talking about opportunities. So does that become, it gets really crazy because does that become NIL money that pays their way to school? Do you have 106 scholarships? Do you have no walk-ons? What a tough thing if a British Brooks wouldn't have an opportunity to get a scholarship at places like the University of North Carolina. And then I'm banking on him making a pro team. So, and what happens to the extra walk-ons on your team if they cut the roster to 106? So there's so many unanswered questions, but that's why the more we can pull the one collective back close to home, get everybody on board, get everybody speaking the same truth, it makes it so much better for us. It makes it better for our boosters. It makes it better for our fans. It makes it better for our players, and definitely better for our coaches, because then fans can give where they want to. They can direct the money where they want to. And then the coaches aren't having inner fighting over trying to get money for their programs, because that's not fair either. We're all trying to win.
That's a really good breakdown, Mack. And you mentioned Carolina kind of being in maybe the best spot it's been in terms of kind of moving forward with all the moving parts with NIL. You kind of highlighted some of the challenges there. Just my last question on NIL before we move to the team is, what is the importance and the necessity, if you will, of thriving in the NIL space to be able to compete not only at the conference level, but also nationally?
Greg, it's of ultimate importance now. The coach that said, why are you recruiting better? Because we're paying more. What we've got to do is figure out who that guy is, who that family is that fits us. That's always been the case, but it's even more so now. Because if they're just after money, they're not going to come here. That's not the deal. Because some are always going to want to pay more, and we're not getting bidding wars and a guy going in the portal to see how much he can get. We're not into all that. What we want to do is be fair. We want to be market value. We want to do what's right. It's always been the Carolina way that people have talked about forever. And we want to continue to grow in the Carolina way, but do it within a structure that gives us a chance to compete at the highest level. We've never won a national championship in football, and that's what we want to do. And to do that, we're going to have to be able to pay a certain amount of money to get players to at least consider us, even if they're a top academic school, because there's some other great academic schools that are paying a lot of money. And we don't want to give them so much money that it's ridiculous and they shouldn't have that much money at their age and they haven't earned it. But we want to have a structure in place. And that's where Pat Sudduss is so important to us as general manager, because he talks to the pro teams all the time. And we're talking to pro teams. We're talking to the top college teams across the country. How much are you paying your left tackle? How much are you? And we need to be in that market, Greg. And that's what we want to do. But it's forcing us to look more closely at every player. Like this year, we're going to have a small recruiting class because we've signed so many people over the last 2 years. So we don't need that many more right now. I think by value of each player, we're in the low 20s in a recruiting class. If you looked at the overall class, we're probably in the 40s, but we've got 12 committed, and we may not have many more than that. We may have 14 committed and then look into the portal some. But you're having to look at, you don't want to take an average high school player that you may have to wait 3 years on. If you can get a really good portal player, it's just changed. It's changed the way that you look at things in recruiting. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to make the transition with the navigation of NIL to make sure that we're giving North Carolina the best chance. It's one of the things I'm so excited about right now is working through all this and figuring it all out and making sure that we can still compete at the highest level and do it within the parameters that we believe in and that this place believes in. And to do that, we're going to have our boosters continue to step up. It's just like so many people from inside Carolina stepped up. And a great friend of mine, he wouldn't mind me saying, he's a great friend of Carolina's. Eddie Smith owns Grady White Boats, and he took a bankrupt business and turned it into a billionaire business. And Eddie said, NIL might smell a little bit to me and some older people, but losing stinks. So I'm going to pay money to make sure that we can do what the other people are doing. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to come from a place where for many years we've always said, don't pay players, don't have agents. And here we are, all the players have agents. We're asking people to pay players. So it's been a huge transition and a huge difference. And I'm one of the ones that said for those 20-something years, don't pay players. And let's be smart. Let's go by the rules. And now I'm saying, okay, I was kidding. We're changing here. We're going to have to pay players. And then you have to figure out, who do you pay what's fair. And our coaches are paid for their value. I'm paid for my value. Our players are going to start being paid for their value. And the NCAA says it's not pay for play. Well, it is. It is. The guys that are playing the best are going to make the most money, because that's what the people give to the collectives to give to those players, to make sure that you can get them there and keep them there. And just like Omari and Hampton and Kamen Rucker and a lot of our players, the Josh Downs, the Drake Mays, the Sam Howells, they've all had opportunities to leave, and we've only had one leave that was a starter. So that is a really good positive for our program, that guys love it here and they bought into the culture, and they're turning down a lot of money to stay here and play as we continue to grow with our money to try to help them be competitive with the other schools that we've got to beat.
Coach, I want to let you get in something a little more comfortable than talking about NIL, because I know that's still relatively new to all of us. You got some guys reporting, and camp officially starts in the next couple of days as we record this. This is, by the way, the Next Level podcast here on Inside Carolina. I'm not Tommy Ashley. I'm just Joey Powell. But we're with the winningest active coach in college football, which I think that's probably not many folks have said that to you recently, but hopefully we can get that in your head. Coach, as the guys report, what are you hoping to fix over the course of fall camp? I mean, I know everybody wants to look at the quarterback battle. Everybody wants to talk about a new defensive coordinator. What's the one thing that you've got as priority one at the top of your board coming out of camp?
Joey, the number one thing is to figure out why we haven't finished well and fix it. That's it. We're so close. Why do we start 9-1 and fizzle? Why do we start 6-0? We're 10th in the country and we don't play as well at the end. And so we're obviously doing the right thing in the offseason program. We're starting seasons right. We're doing really well. But what in the end is got to change. And from my perspective and looking at it, that's where the leadership committee gets involved. And let's make sure we're doing every little thing right from a disciplinary standpoint. Keep the locker room clean. Keep the players' lounge clean. Go to every class. Don't miss an academic assignment. Don't be late. Don't miss practice for nothing that you think it's important, but it's not. Football's got to be more important than that. So clean up the little things, and that'll make a difference in a few of these games, because that's penalties. Your offensive and defensive holding and your offensive and defensive pass interference are the four biggest penalties that happen in a game. So we've got to cut those out, at least eliminate some of them, because we've had too many. So you can't have pre-snap penalties. You can't have post-whistle penalties. So cut them out. That'll save games, because we've had games where we've had 15 penalties. It's ridiculous. And we can't do that for guys that are smart and have the best academics in the country, and you can't avoid penalties. Come on, man. You can. We just have to. So do the little things right. That's important. We obviously have to get better on defense. We haven't tackled well. We haven't stopped people on first down. We've played good defense at times, but we've played absolutely awful defense at times. And that's with good coaches over a 5-year period. And to be fair, we weren't as good on defense with personnel when we got here as we were offense. Coach Fedora had some great offensive players. It was easier to build on offense. And we had to outscore people early, and we're still having to do that. And it's time for us to catch up on defense. And I think one of the things that will really help us is playing more people. I've been trying to be at least 2 deep and maybe 3 deep for 5 years. I haven't gotten it done like I need to. And that's something I think we get tired in the end of the year. I feel like we get more people hurt at the end of the year, and it really hurts us. So we're at a time where we need more people healthier. That helps you develop people for the future, especially at linebacker. We've played 2 linebackers for 2 years. Mm-hmm. We have got to play more linebackers, and we've got to develop them for the future. And they won't be as tired playing 900 plays in that last 3 games. And if one of them gets hurt, it's not just a devastating blow because you've got somebody else ready to play. It also keeps people morales up. It makes people work harder in practice because they think they have a chance to play, unless people get in the portal that are backups, because we've lost a lot of backups to the portal. We're not losing first teamers, but it's hurt us with depth. So defense has got to get better. And the other thing, special teams. We've been average to really good to poor. And we've got to get better in those areas. I do think that the fact that we have analysts and QCs that can coach now are really going to help in some of those areas. I do feel like Clyde Christian being able to help Chip Lindsey with quarterbacks. I mean, you got the best quarterback coach in the country, and he can coach now. We can just turn him loose and let Chip be free to go around to some other meetings and look at some other things as a boss. Same thing with special teams. We hired Eric Mealy, and Eric was the special teams coordinator at Washington State for Mike Leach and then Mississippi State. He's a full-time special teams coach, so he'll get more involved in our special teams. We've got to play better players on special teams, because when you're not playing too deep, your starters can't be on special teams because they're worn out. They're playing too much. So it all fits together. So I would think, Joey, without going just crazy here and rambling all over the place, more discipline, do little things better, play better defense, and especially stop the run and don't give up so many explosives. I think we've done too much on defense, and therefore we've made too many mistakes. Be good at something, and then go back and be better at special teams. And obviously we've got to recreate an identity on offense, because we've had 2 of the best quarterbacks in the country, both of them in the NFL. And now you've got some unknowns at that position, but we've got 3 really good, experienced guys that can all play. And we have to do a great job of coaching and figuring out how to get those guys in game-type situations between now and the Minnesota game, so we can see who can handle the pressure the best.
One of the people that you brought in was Geoff Collins, a very young, fiery guy. We had him here on this show. Tommy and Greg talked to him a while back. What have your conversations in your approach with him been about recognizing the deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball? You know, he also mentioned what you said about wanting to play more bodies. What have y'all's conversations been like? And try to help our listeners and viewers understand how you're approaching fixing the things on the defense that you felt like, you know, was necessary to bring in Geoff Collins.
Yeah, Joey, we interviewed a number of people, and he checked every box. It was amazing. He wanted all the coaches on the interview, and he knew all their names, and he knew what they were, and he knew their players' names, and he'd watched all of our games, and he knew personnel. And his thought process was so much like what we're already doing, with the tweaks that I thought we needed to be making. So it was like I was talking to me in the interview. And he's so high energy. I love the fact that he's been a head coach at 2 different places. He did a great job at Temple. He took over a very tough transition period. Paul Johnson did a great job at Georgia Tech, but you're talking about changing everything. And everybody knew it was going to be tough. And now everybody says, well, he didn't do a good job. They got really good players. Mm-hmm. So the man can recruit. He's high energy. The 2 players that are here that he recruited at Tech, Nate McCullum and Jakai Leftwich, both just absolutely love him. And he gets it as a head coach. He is all inclusive with the players. He's very high energy. He's a guy, if one of our receivers makes a great catch over a defensive back, he'll sprint across the field and chest bump the receiver and say, man, that's what we need. That's going to win games. That makes a difference, man. I love that. You get better. You get better, corner. This guy's going to make us better. but he's fun. And he's coached some of the best defenses that we've ever had in college football. So he gets it. He's also got a little chip on his shoulder because the last place he didn't finish it like he wanted to. So He wants to be a head coach again. He's got a lot to prove. So I love his energy. I love his positivity. And I thought some of the things he did at Tech were crazy. Well, I can see now he did them to get attention to his program and try to stir things up. And that's who he is. He is a go-getter that wants to make sure that he's got the players confident, simple. He wants to look complicated and be simple, which I've always wanted. And we haven't done that since we've been here. To me, we've been too complicated and made too many mistakes. And he wants the guys to be confident. And that's what being simple and having a guy like him leading does. And he's got all the players and coaches following him now. They're all pumped about the season. And the skeptics will say, well, I'm going to wait and see. Well, me too. I got to wait and see. I don't know if we're any good. I think we're better. We're lining up better, and we're playing harder, and we're playing with more confidence. And even the offensive guys this spring said, ooh, that's some good stuff, man. That's really hard to block. And so that's good. It's challenging us on both sides. So I like that.
Mack, just a couple more and we'll get you out of here. Joey referenced you being the active all-time winning coach. And if you look at your time in Mack Brown 2.0, as we like to call it, in Chapel Hill, last 5 years, UNC is tied for second, both in ACC wins and overall wins. So you've had a lot of success in the program. You mentioned some of the difficulties that the team has had for whatever reason over the last couple of years, kind of closing seasons, if you will, after getting out to a 9-1 start a couple of years ago. And as you said, you've highlighted the need to be better defensively. Everybody remembers how good your teams were the first time in Chapel Hill defensively, as well as during your time at Texas. And you've also harped on, hey, we need to play more guys. We need to play more guys. Yet, as you mentioned, that necessarily hasn't happened. So I think there's some frustration in the fan base of like, well, Coach Brown is saying we need to do these things, but yet they're not happening. Can you give some insight into why the defense has struggled to the extent that it has in recent years, and then why, along with that, maybe as many guys haven't been able to play as much as maybe you would have liked them to?
Yeah, Greg, it's a great point, and I'm frustrated with the fan base. I mean, everybody thinks, well, why didn't he fix it? Well, I'm trying best I can, and I can tell a guy to play too deep, but his job's on the line. And if I make him do something he doesn't believe in and then fire him, then that's not fair to him. So I've hired these guys. I can guide them. I can lead them. But if I tell you, Greg, you have to put this guy in at this position and you don't believe it, then it's not going to work. And that's where I believe right now, for the first time, our defense is all on board. They're aligned. At Texas, we had staffs that were aligned. Here we've had some up and down with staff issues. Not everybody's bought in all the time, and people kind of went on their own way, and that's disappointing for me. And that's my job. And I think I've finally got a staff that is all aligned. The offense and defense is really working together. But Tommy Thigpen is a great person. He's a great player here. He's an All-American. He played in the NFL. I love him. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's won a national championship. But he wants to win so badly that if he only trusts Powell and said, and I'm saying put Amari Campbell in the game, and when a game gets tight, he can't do it. And I'm not just calling out Tommy. I mean, as a staff,
right, that's
what we've got to do. So we have to do a better job of making those plans in our mind set before the game starts. So if you say you're putting in two different linebackers in the third series, you don't have any choice. And instead of letting them make those decisions, I'm going to start making the decisions about, before we start, you're going to put linebacker, you're going to put corners, you're going to put guys in when I say, so get them ready. Instead of having them during the game make a decision under pressure I just can't do it. This means too much. I can't put this young one in. Well, they're not going to get better till you put them in. Mm-hmm. They're not going to practice as well till they get to play. So I have not done a good job, Greg, of getting that across to the staff. I've told them, but I haven't helped them have enough confidence to do it. And that's my fault. And I'm going to fix that now, because fans are totally right. I've said it for 5 years and we haven't done it. It's hard for offensive line coaches to substitute. They hate it. Oh my God, they like to play 5 and that's it, ever. And somebody gets hurt, somebody gets tired. So I'm talking to Randy. We need at least 8. The NFL plays 7. And if you did, at Texas, we were good enough. We'd put the second team in the 3rd series of the game and just go. If they went down and scored, we'd put them back in. If they didn't, we'd take them out. We might put them in the next 3rd series. But we had a plan. Unless you were inside either 20, that white team, the second team, is going in the 3rd series. No discussion. I don't care, because coaches want to win so badly that they can't make the right decisions sometime to take risk. Because and we've been so bad on defense at times that it was hard to put somebody in. But when we had the awful 4th quarter at Appalachian State, we were worn out. We were just worn out. We couldn't stop anybody. And everybody says, what happened? Well, we're tired. We were at altitude. It was really hot. They gave out 2. Everybody griped about our defense. They gave up 61. So, I mean, it wasn't like they played banner defense that day either. But both teams gave out, and that's where the Appalachian game here. I think we would have won that game if we'd substituted more. They gave out in the heat at the end of the game, but we gave out 2. So I think, Greg, that's a huge part of what we've got to do to take the next step.
Well, thank you for a very frank answer there. And I've got one more, as you mentioned about offensive line. Clearly, you've had some incredible success really running the ball. Amarian last year, and then everybody remembers what Javonte and Michael Carter did for a couple of years early in your tenure. There's also the matter of, I guess the average is about 39 sacks allowed per year, last 5 years, which when you're in a passing an air raid type scheme, I guess that's part of it. But then you've had 3 offensive line coaches who all have good pedigree. And when you combine all that with the fact that now you have the transfer portal, and the old school idea from what coaches told me 20 years ago was you really need an offensive line recruit to come in for a couple years so you can develop him. It seems like those types of days, maybe you're kind of moving aside and you're having to mine the portal more. All that to be said, to get to my question, how difficult is it to put forth a solid, consistent offensive line when you got the portal in play, when you've got different coaches coming in and out, and you're trying to put a very proficient, exciting offense on the field?
Greg, offensive and defensive lines now are the 2 hardest things to get. They're the 2 groups that are getting the most pay in the portal. It's just unbelievable. Outside of the quarterback, you take him out because he's a different entity. But a lot of running backs, a lot of receivers, a lot of corners, a lot of safeties. Linemen are hard to find, and they're so hard to find. And I really hate the fact that coaches across the country are not able to have patience anymore. You used to take that freshman and let him grow. And the offensive lineman didn't even play till his 3rd year normally. And now if he's not playing in the 2nd year, you're saying we got to get us a portal guy. So you're not waiting on them anymore. And that they get frustrated because they're not playing, and you're bringing in other guys. And so patience is gone with college coaches in college football. And we're trying. We signed 26 high school guys last year. But you look at our offensive line this year, we bring in a transfer from Georgia. We brought in Willie last year. We brought in a transfer from North Texas. We brought in a transfer from Georgia Tech. So, and I really think we potentially can have the best offensive line we've had since we've been here. I'm really excited about watching them because they're really physical this spring. And I'd like to have 10, but I'm fighting for 8. at least. And then you've got a guy like Aiden Banfield who looks really good. Can he play as a freshman? Because he came in January. Andrew Rosinski is another young guy that was here all spring. And what will happen with Zach Greenberg? You bring a Division III guy in. How Spencer Rollins came from the Ivy League. How fast can Zach get ready to play? Because he wasn't here this spring. He's really smart. He'll know what to do, but how fast can he go in? And do you put him at guard? Do you put him at center? Where do you let him play? So offensive line recruiting struggled some because we had 3 different coaches, and that's tough. And offensive linemen are hard to recruit. There aren't enough of them. When you can find them, you've got to get them, and you have to recruit them for about 2 years. And when you change coaches 3 times, or they change you because they left, then you're behind, and you're losing kids that you thought you had a year and a half with, and then you lose because you got 6 weeks with them. So looking at we're going to lose a lot of defensive linemen next year. We're probably going to have to go to the portal to look at defensive linemen. Offensive linemen, you're going to have to do that probably every year on and off. And it's really interesting to see what some of these young guys are being paid. And when an average offensive lineman goes in the portal, people are all over him. We've looked at some and said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't take him. And people are paying him. So it's just so difficult. I remember when we were here before, the hardest thing to find were offensive linemen in this state that could win all the games. And that's still something that we're looking at. But we signed some really good young ones this year. I like Janai Norwood. He's already up to 316 pounds. He's really moving his feet. He looks really good. He wasn't very highly recruited, but played both sides of the ball, and we really liked him. So there are going to be some of those guys that are just really good players that help us. But I think one thing all of us, the fans and I, can start watching is to see the progress of this offensive line. Unlike with Drake and Sam, people are going to stack the line of scrimmage because they've got to stop Omarion. And we've got some other good backs behind him. Larry Porter's done a good job of filling that room with good players. So the quarterbacks are going to be forced to throw it. And we've got really good receivers. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see this offensive line. I can't stand sacks. Usually for every sack that you have, you lose a drive. And we've been good enough to overcome it some. But you can't just keep having sacks. It's not fair to your quarterback. And running the ball better, we should have fewer sacks. We had fewer last year than we had in the early years. We're starting to chip more with our back. We're starting to chip with our tight end. And that's kind of the Clyde Christensen, Freddie Kitchens. They're bringing that from the NFL. So it's really helped us. So we had more time last year. So that's why I'm so excited about this team. I want to see the defensive line play better under Ted Monachino. Coaching does matter, and I want to watch him and see how he does with a full year. I'm watching Randy Clements for the second year. Randy had 2 or 3 different job opportunities this year. Ted could have gone back to the NFL. They both wanted to stay here because they're excited about what they've got and what they're doing. I say this most years, but I'm so excited. I think this staff's the best we've ever had. I can't imagine some of these guys being here right now. They're here because they want to win for the place and they want to win for the fans. And that's not happening much in modern day. This loyalty thing is kind of being kicked around. But I'm so excited about it. It just makes it fun. But Greg, I really believe that this offensive line is going to be good. I really do. And we've got to figure out Trey Green. He's at 360 and we wanted him to be at 345. His body mass fits 360. We had a player, Leonard Davis at Texas. He was 383 and I always wanted him to be 350. And we nearly killed him one day because we're trying to get him. And now the technology is good enough. Trey Green needs to be at 360. That's where his body mass fits. So he's doing really well. Where will Leftwich play? He's played guard. He's played tackle. Do you put him with Trey Green at tackle to start with? Do you put him at guard? Do you put both of them at guard and tackle till you figure out where Ja'Kai is going to play the best? So those are decisions we have to make, and those are decisions you get paid for. Who's the backup center? Is that Bo Burks, who was in the bowl game, or is it Zach Greenberg? So those are all things that we're not sleeping with till we can get on the field and make decisions that will help our football team. But the pieces are here. To me, it's on us as coaches to make sure we get all the pieces in the right place. And that's our job. That's what we do. So the fact that we're dropping off at the end, to me, is us. It's not the kids. The schedule's been harder. I mean, we've played Clemson. We've played NC State. We've played Oregon. We've played a really good West Virginia team. Bowl games have changed because we've had our best players opt out. So that's the other reason you got to play too deep. So if a guy opts out, you just don't have anybody that's ever played going in his place. So there's a lot of things that are on my mind that we as coaches can do better that we haven't done as good a job as we need to do. And that's why fans' expectations are higher than 8 and 9 wins. Mine are too. I didn't come back here to win 8 games. I didn't come back here to win 9 games, and I didn't come back here to fizzle at the end, and I'm embarrassed over losing 4 bowl games. I mean, I've never done that in my life. So all of those things are things that we need to fix, and I am so challenged by and so excited about it. I just can't wait till Sunday when these guys get here.
Well, Coach, you got a couple more sleeps. I can commit to you right now that I will get Greg on the sled this evening, and we'll try to get him to his proper playing weight, and then also I will try to get my calisthenics up so that we report next week. We're in the best shape to get to the finish line the way you want us to. But well,
until we get Will in place, I can't afford you to.
Well played.
So I do know that, but we'll keep working. We're going to work to get in that ballpark. You'll be able to get a certain bucket.
Awesome. Coach Brown, we appreciate you making time. Again, I know you've got a lot on your plate with camp starting this week, kids reporting this week, and then getting started next week. But appreciate you making time for us here on Next Level. And we'll certainly talk to you probably not before too long after some two-a-days and stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
As we're sitting here talking with UNC head coach Mack Brown, the active winningest coach in college football, I want to tell you about a winning coach, and that's going to be members of the staff at Johnny T-Shirt. They will take care of you. I talked recently on a Coast to Coast podcast about the new white throwback to Mack Brown 1.0, that throwback that Nike made. They're doing the white ones now. Man, they are absolutely crispy. And I hope that everybody listening to this, if you want one, get one. As we know, Keenan gets really, really warm, and with 3 home games early in the season, you might fry. So if you get a chance to wear a white shirt, wear the white shirt with the big Carolina blue on it and get it from Johnny T-Shirt. Premium subscribers know that extra 10% off the top of your already amazingly low prices. Johnny T-Shirt will help you out. They've got your sizes, all of the stuff that they have, you need, and if they don't have it, you don't need it. Johnny T-Shirt, we appreciate their support. And while we're talking about great support, I got to make sure that I mention our guys over Congruity. Congruity HR is your one-stop shop to find out how you can optimize your small or medium-sized business. These guys have a national brand, but they work locally, and they take pride in the success of local businesses. They will give you this assessment if you go to congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. Go on there, take an assessment for your business. They will tell you how they might be able to save you some money on your benefits, on your payroll, on all those back office type things that you don't like spending time and energy in. Let them handle it. You'll save some money, and you can go back to focusing on the things that matter to you, i.e. driving your top and bottom lines. You know what that means. Call our friends at Congruity, get in touch with them online, however you want to do it. Make sure they're your next contact so that you can get your business running the way you want to run it and spend your time on the things that make the most sense in your business. congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. Get that free assessment. We appreciate them supporting us, and we appreciate you being a part of this show on Inside Carolina.